Welcome back to the Primal Reset podcast. We're joined today by Erik Nelson, the co founder and the clinical director of HumanSync. With a background of neurointensive care and years of leading clinical programs at top longevity clinics, Erik has helped thousands of clients optimize their health through advanced diagnostics and personalized wellness protocols. Erik, it's a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the show.
Nice to be here. Thank you. Nice to meet you, and I'm excited for this.
Absolutely. And we're excited to have you on the show today. Share with me your journey getting into the wellness. Obviously, you've done it for so many years. What got you into wellness to begin with, and what got you to start HumanSync?
I always start with a timeline. I always feel it helps. I grew up in Minnesota. My family lived and worked near Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. So healthcare was always there. Obviously, it's a different style of healthcare than I practice right now, but kind of being around it. And then I got into, lifting weights in high school with buddies, and after school, going to the gym and getting chicken breasts on the weekends, and a bunch of protein and build and all that stuff. So that was kind of where I got into health a little bit. For some reason, I started eating healthy. I still drink Mountain Dew in all the 90s. I'm 39. So in the 90s, we ate Little Debbie's and sugar and Mountain Dew all the time, even after football practice. But I still had some sort of health interest. And after high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I played around with a couple things, worked in several different industries, serving tables, sales, Lifetime Fitness. I worked as a personal trainer and sales. And then I got into social work. I've always kind of liked helping people out with certain things. I don't know if, whether it's serving tables between the cooks and what you call these, and they're not patients, they would be customers. Now I work with in the medical field, so I think patients all the time. And then social work, helping kids get through daily struggles in life. The kids that have been given a bad card. I worked with social work in Arizona for about a year. And then a buddy of mine said, you should think about becoming a nurse. You grew up in Rochester, maybe you could get into Mayo Clinic. I was like, oh, interesting. So I got my nursing degree, and then that kind of led me on this path. So that's how I got into it. I listened to a podcast in 2019, Ben Greenfield's podcast. This was about a couple of years into nursing. I was working out on a Sunday, and I was just starting to listen to these podcasts because that was 6 years ago. They were probably just getting started. I know they started a long time before that, but they're hot now. 6 years ago, Ben Greenfield was one of the OGs in the space of biohacking, and he had a couple doctors on, Mike Mallon and Matt Dawson from Wild Health. And they were speaking about a platform called Wild Health, personalized genomic medicine. And I stopped everything I was doing. I called them the next day. Long story short, that's how I got into this field. And there's a lot that's happened since then, but I'll stop there. And that's kind of how it started.
It's funny, I say this almost every podcast, but everyone that I speak with on the podcast and outside of the podcast as well, everyone that's gotten into the wellness industry has their own story that has actually, they've gone through almost a struggle or have always had that helping hand as their younger selves. And
Sure.
it eventually started into actually creating their own business around it. So I love the story behind all of that as well. And we should think more of business as we're here to serve people and we're here to help, and not as a revenue generating source.
Totally.
Obviously, that comes along within the process, but I love the service first approach.
Thank you.
Share with me, HumanSync, it's relatively new. Share with me what you guys are doing and how it differs from the traditional healthcare models in promoting longevity and wellness.
Yeah, I think back at my time as a nurse at Mayo Clinic, one of the best hospitals, not a whole lot of bad things to say, honestly. It's acute care, neuro ICU, a great hospital system, a nice paycheck, retirement, all that. Very comfortable, helping people in very sad situations. The nurses and the doctors, the whole team I met was great, but they were not doing anything close to what HumanSync is doing and where medicine is going right now. For example, after a surgery, I took care of people that had brain tumor removals, problems with their brain, so motor vehicle accidents, accidental, suicide attempts, a lot of sad stories. And even in the hospital setting at Mayo Clinic, they would give Pepsi and cookie to diabetics with a diabetic wristband because they needed food after surgery. And I got so uncomfortable with that I knew I couldn't stay in it. But I was listening, to all these podcasts on what's going out there, but actually really happy with where I was at Mayo Clinic. So that's kind of what spurred my interest to get into Wild Health. And now it's been about 6 years since I started there. I've now worked in 5 separate businesses in this space, and I've learned a lot. At Wild Health, it was all about improving health, working with patients. I was a health coach. I got into aggregating data into health reports for the doctors. So I would take genetics and blood work and lifestyle and present a manual report. This is before tech. They created a tech platform that eventually did this, but it would take 4 hours when I started to put this thing together. And I learned, how do you take bits and pieces of data? How do you take information from Elliot? Okay, Elliot's, I don't know how old you are, say 26, and he's 6'3", I know that. He used to be a hockey player and all these things. Okay, that's Elliot. And then he's eating this way, he's sleeping this way, he's supplementing this way. This is his previous health experience in different fields. And then put it together into a report. And then I would be on the call with the doctors, listening, modifying the report. I'd send the report after the call, and then I would be their health coach for up to 12 months. I saw about 2,000 people over that 3-year period. That was during COVID as well. So that was a unique time. And I got to see a lot of trends. What do most people struggle with? What are most people doing just fine? And I'll start with most people struggle with stress and sleep are the two biggest things. A lot of people are cool with an exercise plan or following a meal plan. They're great with supplementation because it's easy and it's novel. So I learned a lot of insights on how do you take care of a patient and how do you work with them through the journey and how do you keep them engaged? How do you keep them in the plan for 12 months? Because it's different from Western medicine where you rely on medications and you rely on that doctor visit and the blood pressure visit. So I learned a lot of concepts. I learned the importance of how doctors communicate with the patient. I saw a lot of different styles, and I just kind of observed how the physician would speak with their patient and the response from the patient. And kind of developed my own style on how I would do it if I ever moved forward and maybe started my own company, which is HumanSync. A lot of business ups and downs at Wild Health. They will even admit it, but they're an amazing company. They're still going. Then I heard in 2022, I think was when longevity medicine came to the forefront. Maybe Peter Attia wrote his book shortly after that. Tony Robbins wrote a book. All these people, Jeff Bezos is sniping all of the best people, and they're developing some pretty crazy things, right? Paying them like facts what they were paying before. He's like, I want the best of the best to develop these things. So I kind of keeping my eye on the field the whole time. I joined a longevity clinic in Florida, also helped another clinic for about 5 months rebrand and implement fitness into their clinic. So I saw at Wild Health, back to Wild Health, it was the patient experience, improving in health and retention and customized plans. At the clinics, it was more the business side that I learned. I learned the importance of branding. If there's not a brand and there's no marketing, it's really, really difficult, especially in the saturated space of Florida. The importance of management and the team and how important it is for everybody to be on the same page, because we are selling a product in longevity medicine or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes I don't like to even say the word longevity because some people just don't know the definition. But we're trying to improve people's health, but also sell a product at the same time. So it's just a little bit different. And if the business side has intentions to make money and that's their main scope, but the medical side wants to see patients and improve health and be with patients, and there's a disconnect between the medical and the business side, that's very unfortunate. And thankfully, I had a couple of business advisors that were patients of mine at Wild Health. One of them actually, I talked to him one day, asked how things are going. He goes, my son is very interested in this space. He runs a business. He runs Loudlux Media, a media company in the US right now that makes commercials for like Celsius Beverage and a couple other big companies. You should talk to him. His name's Bradley Pierce. And I said, okay, cool. So I called him and I said, hey, dude, we should do a brain health program for athletes because he's an Ironman athlete. He's like, oh, I don't know. So we kind of fine-tuned things we would talk weekly for about a year and eventually built HumanSync. And HumanSync is a combination of what I saw at the clinics and what I saw at Wild Health, what worked, what didn't work. We had a huge drawing board, whiteboard, and we spent a lot of time. Okay, what went really well at Wild Health in the first 12 months? Check, 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 check. Okay, what about this clinic? Check, check, check. What didn't go well? How do you pay your team? How do you make people happy? When you're a startup, you can't just hire 10 doctors and pay them a full salary. Otherwise, the startup doesn't work. So little business things. So HumanSync, this is my long-winded way. I think it's always nice to explain the background a little bit and on what started it. It's telemedicine. It is, I guess you would say, longevity medicine, but then you'd have to define it. But essentially, we want people to not get disease, and we want them to resolve the struggles they have on a day-to-day basis. We work with high performers, executives, athletes. We even have the average Joe and average Jane as well. We have a couple military people we've worked with. We're honing our scope into kind of the high performers, business and athletes, executives, just because those groups are primed for what we're doing. They're interested. They care about a lot of different things in their life, and they want to take it from 90% to 92% or 95 to 96%. But we essentially work with anybody that's very serious about their health. It's a 12-month program, genetics, blood. We're utilizing the direct-to-consumer market. There's very low overhead in a telemedicine model. compared to spending $1 million on a clinic. And then you don't have patients coming through the door and you're put in a very tough situation. So launching the clinic was essentially not simple, but easier than I think all of the logistics of an actual brick and mortar clinic. But it comes with we can't offer therapies, so we have to be very creative on our partnerships, which we've done partnerships with radiology clinics for imaging. So we've figured out essentially, I think, when you say how do we stand out, to clinics are offering many different services, and this is not a bad thing, that don't need to be offered in the clinic. Blood spot kits, urine kits, blood draws, all this stuff can actually be delivered in a telemedicine model that's convenient, it's easy, it's accessible. The patient doesn't have to fly. That's another thing I saw was if you're in Florida and somebody from Utah wants to join a clinic in Florida, they have to take time out of their schedule. There's expenses to fly. And I saw a huge barrier to entry that I was like, oh, and it got frustrating, to be honest, because these people wanted to join, but they were so busy they didn't have to. And I was like, okay, we got to figure this out. So that's kind of where the Wild Health model came in. It was easy, ship a genetic kit to somebody's house, get some blood drawn. There's about 100 other tests we can offer as well. And essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure our patients understand where they stand in terms of heart disease, brain health, immune health, cancer risk, physical health, and metabolic health. That's kind of a lot, but I'll start over again. So you got heart disease, brain health problems, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, immune health, cancer, physical health, and metabolic syndrome. 6 systems of aging. And we screen everything. We give a report that tells people where they stand. So if they have a family history of Alzheimer's, we do a whole workup. It's not just a couple things that says this blood panel is your total health, because a blood panel will not explain everything. It explains a lot, but it will not explain everything. You need to know more data points in order to understand truly who you're working with. And then we've also designed it we don't do a lot of questionnaires and intake forms. We do time with the patient, which is kind of counterintuitive to the tech and AI revolution that's happening right now. There's a lot of scale talk and a lot of how can we bring in the most amount of patients, which is great and well-intentioned, but people don't know what to do with it a lot of times. So we're trying to be the solution, or we are the solution, to guide people through a 12-month program to optimal health. And it's a lot of time spent with our team. It's not 2 30-minute calls or 1 60-minute call in 12 months. It's a lot. And it's amazing what we've done by doing it that way. There's a case study that we have that came to us, a 30-year-old with anxiety, a history of medications, running a $900 million company, and had no idea what to do with his anxiety. And we had our first initial call, the doctor, myself, and this client. And he went through everything, and we were just like, gosh, what is causing this? Like, what is causing this? Got his med list, got his med history. And this is all based on questions, probably 2 hours at this point spent. And we found out he took 3 medications in the last 10 years for anxiety. And we ran a pharmacogenomics panel, which is a genetic test you can do to see how the body uses and metabolizes meds. All 3 of those medications were in the red zone, meaning he took the med, his body would not metabolize it, something to do with the liver and the kidney and the breakdown in the gut, and it would build up in his system and worsen the symptoms, even though the medication is designed to help with anxiety. So we found out what meds are in the green zone. It's really easy. And then we put it on it within 3, 4, 5 weeks. No anxiety episodes, back driving again. And that's just a piece of, because I didn't even touch on heart health and brain health and those brain health kind of, but so I'll back up a little bit. Hopefully that helps explain.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I'm glad I let you talk a little bit about it. The personalization is needed nowadays, and it's funny when you mentioned within the last 2 years is where you've seen more of the longevity clinics kind of pop up everywhere. It's not new stuff, everything within the wellness industry has been here for years and years and years. And I always say it's almost rediscovering, creating that awareness of this has been here. We haven't really utilized it the most that we could have. Let's try and do that. The Western medicine, and like you say, like Mayo Clinic, like places like that, they definitely do a good job, and they definitely save lots of lives and create a better environment for a lot of people. Absolutely. But when we're looking at the background and the kind of internal health, that what is really going on with you, and how can we truly optimize your health to where maybe we can create a prevention? It's not always going to happen, but if we can, we need to be aware that there are possibilities like HumanSync out there that we can actually understand our own bodies and not generic information that we see on TikTok or on social media platforms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I always say that to everyone. So the personalized care is the very first thing. Every single person is different. You can hear from the Gary Breckers of the world, the carnivore diet is something that's good for you. Okay, for some people it might be. And for others, it might not be. It all depends on their microbiome and their gut health and how they actually metabolize, like you mentioned, and break down all of the foods, whether it's the processed foods or the whole foods, or how much protein or fibers or anything within your own body. I always say it for celiac disease or for lactose intolerant. You go, well, not everyone's lactose intolerant, not everyone has celiac disease. And it's funny, I go to Europe every now and then to go see some family, and whenever I have dairy or gluten there, I feel fine.
Yeah.
But here in the States, depending on what kind of dairy, what kind of gluten I have, sometimes it doesn't react nearly as well for me. And I'm thinking to myself, is it the same? So is it the quality of the food, or is it the way that I'm processing it? And I always ask this, but for me, I would say it's both. And it's not just one or the other. I think it's both. I think it's the quality of the food, which hopefully we're seeing a positive incline in our quality of food in the United States, but also the personalization that you guys can provide to people for their own bodies and figuring out, okay, these meds I have taken for 10 years, taken 3 of them, they're all in the red zone for me. What can I take better? And even that small step is the first thing to actually changing your wellness and your health. The question I did want to ask you, when you mentioned the steps and kind of you guys offer so much, offer 6 different things and trying to understand someone's body, what's the first step that someone can take? And I ask everyone this, what's the very first step so people aren't getting overwhelmed? They're not looking at the end result. They're trying to follow in the journey. What's the first step that people can take?
Write down their health goals. So I think that is a very awesome first step. And, I could jump at make sure you're sleeping and make sure you're eating the right foods and avoiding processed foods and seed oils, make sure you're exercising. But I think the compass comes in when you talk about goals, whether it's health goals individually for the patient, the client, the individual, just the average person walking around. Like, why are they doing this? Is it for, to lose weight? Is it to improve energy? Is it to make sure they don't get Alzheimer's disease like their grandpa, grandma, or mom? Or do they have kids? They want to be around for their kids to have kids and in their 70s actually enjoy the last 20 years of their life. That compass is extremely important. I think it's more important than what we find clinically, because in this space, we can do all this testing and we can say, okay, you got to do brain MRI and all these things. And this is what you do. This is the plan, often losing sight of what the person actually wants. So why did Elliot even come here? So Elliot came to HumanSync because of this and this and this. So the average person, whether or not they join a clinic or telemed or just anything, if they want to improve their health, write down your goals on a sticky note or however you do it. I've got sticky notes on my computer and next to my side here, and I've got a whiteboard. So it's not too much, but it's borderline too much. I see it visually all the time. What am I working on? What am I working on for myself? What am I working on for my family? I've got 2 little kids. My wife stays at home. And then what am I working on business-wise and mindset? Without doing that, I think people get lost into the 30-day plans, or I'm going to go on a week, I'm going to sleep better for a week, or I'm going to avoid alcohol for 10 days. Or we got to get out of the mindset of this is a short plan or protocol, but it's a complete lifestyle adjustment. And then getting through that first period, anywhere from 1 to 6 months is what I've seen, that people they have a shock factor, like, oh my gosh, I've been doing, okay, this is hard. But as soon as you get out of the weeds, the body starts feeling good and it's like, okay, I'm not going back. So writing down goals, I think, would be number 1.
I love that. I don't think I've actually heard that every time I ask the question, just writing down your goals. And I definitely agree with it. If we're starting something and it's going to be hard, if you're in a full processed food diet and you switch off of that to a whole food diet, you're going to feel terrible within the first week, 2 weeks. You're going to. Your body's not used to processing all of it. You're not going to feel great. And a lot of people end up giving up by that time because, well, I don't feel great. So I'm going to do what makes me feel great. And if we have that goal written down and put it on a sticky note, put it on your computer, put it, as a lock screen on your phone or whatever it may be, if you remind yourself every single day, this is what I'm actually striving for, this is what my goal is, it kind of reminds us, like, I'm willing to go through that pain and take that investment for my health so that I can achieve said goal. So I love what you're saying.
Thank you.
To bring it into fruition, I heard a quote, and I can't remember exactly who this was from, but it was the first step you should always take, and no matter what it is, whether it's for health or any other reason, is take a sheet of paper and write down 20 things that you want. What are 20 things that you want to get to? And after you write those 20 goals down, look at all of them and circle the first 3 that stand out to you. What can I do today that within 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, a short period amount of time, I can achieve? Circle those 3 goals, write it on a new sheet of paper. Those are your 3 goals. That's what you want to get to.
That's good.
And if you do that, you look at that every day, all the rest of the goals will eventually hit themselves. But those are the 3 goals that you need to, or 2 goals or 1 goal, however many you want to actually pick. But that's where it's an investment. Your health is an investment. I say this to everyone at the same time, and I know I'm going everywhere here.
No, it's good.
I would rather invest a good amount of money into my health, taking these tests with HumanSync and understanding my body, understanding what foods are good to eat, what foods are bad to eat for my own body. I'm willing to even spend more money on those high quality foods now, because in 20 years and 30 years and 50 years, I'm going to feel significantly better. And I'm actually going to be spending a lot less money than if I stay on the same track that I'm on right now and end up in the hospital with a $500,000 bill.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
what's more
it's way worth
expensive?
it. It's way worth it. Even if you think about 1 or 2 or 3 years of spending a decent amount of money to figure out your algorithm. And then after that, it's maintenance. Like, I've been doing it personally now for 6 years, and I feel I'm in a pretty sweet spot. And I just think another thing I think about a lot is not many people have had the opportunity to have this knowledge at such a young age. How old are you?
23.
Okay. Did I say 26 earlier, or did I say
Yeah,
23? I said 26.
26.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, 23.
You're good. You're good.
I'm 39, so I'm like 16 years older than you. That's nuts. But there's so much knowledge at our fingertips, and if we can apply that knowledge and use that knowledge the right way, man, we can live until 80, 90, 100. Easy. Some people want to end aging completely. I'm not that extreme, but I think I'd like to avoid disease, and let's just avoid disease and live a happy life. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we always say, like, we take the longevity definition into we're going to live forever. And obviously that's not correct. But at the same time, we don't know if we'll survive until tomorrow, no matter how great you feel.
Yeah.
There's during COVID, and it was such a weird time, but there was, very healthy marathon runners or very healthy athletes who died of COVID. And,
Mhm.
like, that's a whole nother story to itself. But at the same time, like, you could be
That's a whole other
ultra,
story.
ultra healthy, but
Yeah.
like, you have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. So why not try and optimize your health, live the best you possibly can for however long, God has given you that time frame. So
Totally.
I definitely love what you're saying. I love the whole aspect of a HumanSync. And the biggest thing that I've understood within the past 3 or 4 months talking with everyone on this podcast is awareness is not quite there yet. You guys are
No.
just ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Where everyone's catching up. It's almost there, but still just ahead.
Yeah.
So I would say, what's a couple of challenges that you're facing right now with HumanSync that you've either overcome or you're still overcoming right now on the awareness aspect?
Yeah, public presence is 2019 when I started at Wild Health, they were way ahead of the curve, maybe a little too early, possibly. And I think the biggest challenge we face is getting it out there. We are not like a couple companies I just saw in the news, $30 million fundraising company. We're bootstrapped. We're doing it out of our pocket, which is not easy. And it comes with upsides and it comes with downsides. Thankfully, we have a couple things we're working on right now that'll dramatically accelerate that. So I think we're going to pull it off. Very exciting. I'll tease it. One is related to a brain health initiative. The other is a coaching program for essentially longevity coaching program for like new nurses getting kind of interested to come transition from, I don't want to call it the dark side, but sometimes like this play with it like that, transition over to longevity. Cause I've got a handful of people that want to get into the space, but I can't snap my fingers and give them a job. So awareness on all fronts, meaning it's lacking a little bit, but it's increasing. So patients are slowly becoming more interested, especially in the business space, the high performers and athletes, military. They're kind of like, okay, what's going on with that? Products usually start at that level. Doctors, I know doctors, physicians, nurses, NPs, PAs, nutritionists are all watching this space because I talk to people on LinkedIn all the time. It's insane how many people want to get into it. And then businesses, there's a lot of baby boomers walking around the United States right now that have a lot of extra money and they want to invest into something. Let's look at the markets. What's longevity? Peter Attia wrote a book. Tony Robbins wrote a book. So, and I met a business guy that I worked with for about 5 months that was exactly that. He sold an awning company for 85 million, became a patient at a clinic. Whoa, what is this? Cool. I want to invest and I want to build something. That's happening all over. But for HumanSync specifically, I think it's getting the word out there. So getting on a podcast with you and talking to more people. We've got a marketing revamp. We just posted a position on Friday last week for Chief Marketing Officer. 75 applicants in 2 hours. So I had no idea. That was a Friday too. So in my mind, I thought we should have posted it on a Friday, but Brad just posted it I thought we should post it on a Monday. He just did it on a Friday. And I'm like, oh, we should have maybe waited. But I was wrong because massive interest. So I think we're at a good spot. In the next, stay tuned in a couple weeks, 3 weeks, there's going to be an announcement that'll hopefully accelerate that. We need to get on podcasts, talk about it. Social media is going on LinkedIn, and we're about to do some more on other platforms as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting stuff. That's exciting. And
Yeah.
my last question before I let you go, where do you see within the next 5 years this longevity, the wellness industry? Where do you see it going?
Oof. With AI, who knows? I would see mass integration into how health is practiced in the US. It has to be. It has to go that way. So whether that's at actual like Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, UCLA, these big hospitals that are not doing it right now, I know they have to be looking at it. They're smart. There's money in it too. And I know a lot of them are money driven. So people are going to figure out a way to do that. The public wants it. So I would like to see, mass adoption, maybe not as intensive as the HumanSync program. We're pretty we check every box. It's not 50 hours a week by any means, but when you look at some of the other companies in the space, they're sending one blood requisition, 12 months of care, maybe one call. We have monthly calls and we're really hand-holding. So it's kind of a concierge level. I'm curious on what it would look like with widespread adoption. It's obviously it's already in gyms, resorts, and spas. There's some satellite like mobile. I think there's a clinic that tried to start some sort of like mobile box clinic in big cities. And I don't know if that worked out or not. It was going to be on like the corner of like major intersections, and you could walk in and it's like a cube. You could do a bunch of testing and just walk
Oh
out and
yeah, I
be on
saw
your
about
way.
that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that as
A
well.
cool concept, but I don't know if that worked or not, but it will keep moving in a positive direction, which I don't know exactly in 5 years, but I'm hoping less people are taking medications, and I'm hoping our kids don't get sick. I'm hoping Alzheimer's rates go down. That's why we're launching this brain health initiative. That's like the biggest passion of mine personally for many reasons. But I do think, coming back to your question, widespread adoption, but a massive, massive improvement on brain health and Alzheimer's outcomes is, if I could snap my fingers, I would say let's cut that in half, because right now people are suffering. There's no answer. So
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think we're going in an upwards direction, and hopefully we'll see within the next 5 years, hopefully sooner, this kind of be more of a staple in everyone's lives as well, to
yeah.
optimize their health and hopefully reach their health goals in the end as well.
Yeah. Get into kids' books. Let kids start learning about it. I saw a Berenstein Bears book, and they start talking about health in the 90s or 80s. So it's like, we can do some longevity books. There's so many ways to get it out there.
An apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, Erik, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Share with us where we can find more information about you guys, how we can get in contact with you, your social media handles.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn personally, just Erik Nelson. We also have a HumanSync account on LinkedIn as well. We have an Instagram account, HumanSync Health. HumanSync was actually taken on Instagram, so just HumanSync Health. We also have our website, humansync.com. And if anybody has questions about anything, whether it's business, health, whatever, just reach out. We'd love to meet you.
Awesome. Awesome, Erik. Well, I appreciate your time. We'll have to do this podcast again, hopefully in the future. It was a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.